Let's try this again.
We're back. Woo! The Eagles are 10-1.
And there you go. This time, I believe it worked. We got the music going. I have no idea how technology really truly works. I'm completely convinced it's alien technology, and you're not going to convince me otherwise.
That's a whole different rabbit hole.
It is an entirely different podcast, but welcome to the Sports Porch Philadelphia. Right now, if you're catching us live, we are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. And of course, right after the show, we're going to drop the podcast. And where do we drop the podcast, Schwaber? Where do we drop it?
We drop it at www.theporchislive.com, theporchislive.com, theporchislive.com. Click on the Philadelphia tab. It's the only tab that matters.
Yeah, and we also drop it on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. And we thank you for being here.
A couple other
places here and there. Yeah, of course. Hey, Eagles clinch a playoff win early. Thrilling victory over the Bills. Look like they might lose. Look like they might win. Look like they might lose. Look like they might go to overtime. Jake Elliott, he is money. 59 yards. Was it raining too?
In a downpour.
I know. Crazy.
In a downpour.
And of course, yesterday of all days was the day that Tucker missed a 44-yarder for the Reds.
He's actually having a bad year. He's only at 80% on the year.
I know. He dropped down. He's no longer the greatest kicker of all time. I think that young Koo guy down in Atlanta with over 100 attempts, I think he takes the top notch. But anyway, that's not what's important. What's important right now is that the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Buffalo Bills 37-34 yesterday in an exciting overtime match that ended with Jaylen Warren running into the end zone after it looked, whenever it's
not Jaylen Warren, that would be Jalen Hurts.
Excuse me, Jalen Hurts. Thank you. I got too many shows that I work on.
One is just a little bit better than the other.
Yeah, Hurts was 18 for 31 with 200 yards. Not a whole lot of yards passing, but it doesn't matter. The dub is all that matters, and he got the winning touchdown.
And the 5 touchdowns.
Right, 1 interception. DeAndre Swift had 14 carries for 80 yards, and Devontae Smith, 7 receptions, 106 yards, and a touchdown. Against Josh Allen's 29 of 51 for 339 yards with 2 TDs and a pick. But Josh Allen was their leading rusher. He ran 2 touchdowns in. I mean, if you think about it, this was the Bills offense and the Bills team that you would expect to see. And they did score a lot of points. The Eagles' pass defense, left a little bit to be desired this game. But the bottom line is these are the games you got to win. And the Eagles are now 10-1, 5-0 at home, rocketing toward the playoffs.
Yeah, how's this gauntlet working? Miami,
1.
Dallas, 1.
I know.
Chiefs, 1. Bills, 1. 4-0 in the gauntlet.
I know, and I was looking at that. I was actually looking at that right before the show, Schwaber. I was like, you know what? This was the point in the season where we said they would be tested because they lost to the Jets, ancient history now. But they had the Dolphins, the Commanders, the Cowboys, the Chiefs, the Bills. Now they have the Niners, the Cowboys, and the Seahawks.
Right.
But yeah, so Niners, Cowboys, and then they're at the Seahawks. They're at the Cowboys too. But the point is, in this gauntlet so far, since they lost to the Jets, they're 5-0. And by the way, 4 of those 5 wins come against playoff caliber teams: the Dolphins, the Cowboys, the Chiefs, and the Bills. So that tells me, first of all, as if you didn't know already, but the Eagles are definitely for real, and they rise to the challenge. And they did make some significant changes this year between the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator. And you can kind of see that on the field a little bit, but not much. Not much.
Mm-hmm. It's
They are
pretty close.
clearly
The
the
numbers are pretty
favorite.
close.
Yeah, they are. They are.
Steve chiming in, Bills aren't a playoff team.
He's only
Well,
saying that.
well,
He's only
well.
saying that because the Steelers are a playoff team right now, DeFlitch. Oh my God.
But yeah, Josh Allen, they haven't played a quarterback as good as Josh Allen this year, nor will they the rest of the year.
No.
The Eagles just beat Prescott, Mahomes, Allen, whoever.
Yep.
The only guy we can't beat is Zach Wilson.
I know. They beat Tua, they beat Stafford, they beat Cousins, they beat Mayfield, they beat Sam Howell. Yeah, we just can't seem to beat Zach Wilson. He's pretty
tough.
good.
He's tough.
He's pretty good. Look at this.
Here's the thing. Well, we'll have plenty of time for that later. It's a fun team, that Steelers, a little upstart juggernaut.
Yeah.
Look, you finally said something good about the Eagles. How about that? Oh my God. Is it, or he wants me to go easy on him on the next show?
No, he doesn't.
No, I mean, here's the thing, guys. I mean, it's almost like I don't even know what to say anymore. I mean, it's like now the Eagles are 27-2 in their last 29 games. It's every single stat. It's like Jalen Hurts is the best of all time ever at it.
Yeah.
Except, look, okay, you got to win a Super Bowl and then you can really get chesty.
And he's been a starting quarterback now for this will be 3 years.
Right. But
so we got to give him a little more time before we anoint him the next Tom Brady.
Well, that would be Patrick Mahomes. But I would say if anybody is close, the closest to Patrick Mahomes, I would certainly say is Jalen Hurts. I would have said Burrow, but Burrow got hurt.
Yes. I would not say Burrow. And the reason that's really, that's an interesting question, Schwaber. If you were to pose it as a question, who is the closest quarterback and say skill level in the NFL right now to Patrick Mahomes, who is having a subpar year by Patrick Mahomes standards, but
still really good.
I would say it's probably Jalen Hurts, to be honest with you. I Burrow is more of it's hard to say this because the comparisons to the past are getting, they're stretching out further and further, but Burrow is more of a classic drop back quarterback. Mahomes is, we already know what he can do, and Hurts can do a lot of the things that Mahomes can do. So, and what I thought was a very interesting statistic that they brought up during the game yesterday was that Mahomes not Mahomes. Jeez, oh man, Mahomes, my auto, get over here. That Jalen Hurts has more rushing touchdowns than anybody in the NFL in the last 2 years.
Well, he also became the first quarterback to have 10 plus rushing touchdowns 3 years in a row.
Right.
Which it's kind of like what I was kind of getting at before. Is it's like, I mean, all you have to do is like put on Twitter, and it's just like a laundry list, like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different things that nobody has done except Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like most consecutive wins against winning teams, 14. Most consecutive wins when trailing by double digits in the fourth quarter, Jalen Hurts.
Right.
It's just like it just goes on and on and on.
Here's the problem. Here is the problem.
The problem, because you are a devil's advocate kind of guy.
Well, we got to have some kind of discussion. I mean, love fests get boring. So the problem is none of those statistics matter until you get a Lombardi. And you can talk to Jim Kelly about that, because as far as quarterbacks go, Jim Kelly, if you're ever in a conversation at the bar about the greatest quarterbacks that ever lived, I would challenge you to find anybody that puts Jim Kelly on the list. He'll never be number one because he never won a Super Bowl. Or Dan Marino. He doesn't really come up in conversations that much when you talk about that. Although we know for a time he was the greatest passer that ever lived. So none of these stats mean a damn thing until Hurts. And all he has to do is hold one Lombardi up there. And now you're over the mountain. You're on top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And then it becomes, can you climb it again? Can you climb it again? Can you climb it again? So I do think that Hurts is definitely, I would say right now he is on par with Patrick Mahomes, and he needs to get that trophy. He gets that trophy, and then we can have all the conversations we want. We got a soapbox to stand on. Hey, he won it. I mean, Mahomes has been to 3 and he lost one. So that's the only problem with all of those statistics that say, in this, time frame, he's the greatest at this, he's the greatest at that, he's the greatest at. There's a lot of that out there, but he hasn't won the trophy yet. However, I do think that this year there's just something about the way they're playing this year. There's obviously been no Super Bowl hangover. And we were having this discussion via text with Steve earlier today, or at least you guys were. Are they peaking too early? Do you think they're peaking too early? I mean, heck, we have, what are they, 10-1? We got 6 games to go. That's a long whatever. And no, I don't need your 500 euros and whatever it is.
That's one to take out. No, I don't think so. I mean, no, look, I only come from I only look at it from one perspective, and that's just the Eagles' perspective.
Of course.
I'm going to say I'll include this as like the 4th time, although we don't know what's going to happen in the playoffs just yet. Go back to 2004, the TO year. They were 10-1 that year. They made the Super Bowl. The Doug Peterson year, they were 10-1. They made the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl. Last year, they were 10-1. They made the Super Bowl. They just barely lost the Super Bowl. This year, they're 10-1. So to me, 10-1 seems there's a pretty good trajectory to the Super Bowl.
Right.
So to me, I don't think it's peaking too soon. Like, to be honest, really what it comes down to, and I wholeheartedly believe this, and I think this goes cross sport. A lot of folks will say, you want to be playing your best ball at the end of the season. And I actually disagree with that. You actually want to be playing your best ball from the first kickoff of the first playoff game. Because, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2018, they got off this great start, right? And then Carson Wentz got hurt. And then Foles came in and he looked very iffy for a couple games. They stumbled down the stretch. They didn't even look that great in their first playoff game. They just barely pulled it out against the Falcons. And then boom, tremendous NFC Championship game, blowout of the Vikings. Most points ever scored on a Bill Belichick defense in the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl. Like, that's all you need. It doesn't matter if you're playing really good, because it only takes one game to play bad. You know what I mean? You gotta basically be playing your best ball. Like, and if we want to go cross sports, right? Not this year, but 2 years ago, when the Phillies made the World Series, when they hadn't made the playoffs in like 10 years or so, they stumbled down the stretch. They were something like 6-13 or something in September. They got into the playoffs on the last day of the year.
Right.
But boom, they won, like, first round 2-0, next round 3-1, next round 4-1, ran into, great Astros team, lost 4-2, but they just got hot when they were in the playoffs. That's really all you need to do, is be hot when you're in the playoffs.
Yeah. I think the thinking behind playing your best football is more like, you've got to have everybody on the same page. You've got to have
Kind
everybody
of,
communicating.
kind of.
Um,
I mean, it's kind of like this. It's kind of like, in a way, I would actually argue that you don't want to be playing your best football at the end of the season, and you know why? Because you don't want to be playing any football at the end of the season. You want to buy,
yeah,
and the week
well,
and the week before, you don't want to play any starters.
now you're trying to get
Those,
cute. So,
but
uh,
those are the teams that make the Super Bowl. Look at
here's
the
your
Chiefs and the Eagles last year.
here's your buddy Bob. I love 10-1, or Rob. I love 10
Well,
and
10
one.
and 1.
However, can't keep expecting to win while playing good ball for only 30 minutes. Listen, man, have you watched the Steelers play at all this year? It's a blessing to be playing good ball for 30 minutes and winning.
Well, no, I mean, I get what Rob's getting at. Like, there's a school of thought where you say, playing that way is not sustainable, or look. So, for example, you could certainly say, look, if the Eagles get down 10 at halftime, let's say to the 49ers this week or to Dallas in 2 weeks, probably the law of averages catches up, and they won't win one of those games. You know.
Right. Right.
But at the same time, it's good to know that you can. It's good to know that you can win those kinds of games. The way I sort of look at it is what makes me very positive is I feel like the Eagles haven't played their best game yet. They haven't really played a full 60-minute game.
I
And
don't know.
so
I
and so
think
I think there's room to get better.
I think that Kansas City game was, and we really have two games to talk about this week if you think about it.
Well, Kansas. I
Um,
mean, to be honest, they were outplayed by Kansas City.
Sure, but they won the game, and they won the game by the score that I predicted, 27-17 or 21-17.
That's
I just
true.
make myself feel better. But I got to tell you, I don't think this is a year where it's like you're waiting for them to play their best game. I think this is a team that is matured, and they know how to win, and they know that winning is what matters in the NFL. It's not how you get there; it's just getting there. And Steve says they haven't played a great defensive team yet.
Well, everybody raves about how great Dallas is defensively.
That's very true, and they do have the Niners
Yeah.
coming up,
Mhm.
this week.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
um, and to be honest with you, defenses this year are not. I mean, I think the Ravens have a pretty elite defense.
Mhm.
Cleveland doesn't matter. Um, and the Niners have a great defense. So they're going to get tested. I think if there's a game where they should play what you would consider their greatest game this year, their best game this year, it's going to have to be this 49ers game. And I'll be
Yeah.
real interested to watch this game. Of course, I'll
See,
be is that on Sunday? Yeah.
yeah.
I will be in the sunny Turks
Ooh.
and Caicos Islands for that game. So I don't know if I'll be able to watch it.
To me, I hope they win the game, but I hope they don't play their best game against the 49ers. I hope they play their best game in any playoff games they play.
Well, that's a different season, Schwaber. That's
different season.
Yeah, well, I hope so too. I understand, but I think that you do want to be playing your best football as you go into the playoffs because it's about momentum. You're riding.
Well, it can't hurt. It can't hurt. It's always better to be playing well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So that was a great victory. Now I fully expected the Eagles to win that game just because the Bills, I do think the Bills are probably the second or third best team in the AFC still.
I agree. I agree. I mean, look, here's the bottom line, man. Like, you watch the Chiefs game and you watch the Bills game, right?
Right.
I mean, there is very little difference in those teams.
Yeah.
Josh Allen is a tremendous quarterback.
Yep.
I don't know. They're just kind of one of those like cursed franchises. It's just like even though they're really, really good, they don't win enough. Or things happen. Like, so for example, they had a really good record last year. So they just have an awful schedule this year. Everybody that they play is good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's, it just seems like it never works out for them.
Yeah.
But to be completely honest, I mean, when you're talking about the AFC, let's say if the Eagles are fortunate enough to get to the Super Bowl, and I really think it comes down to the Eagles and the 49ers, and maybe I'll throw in a 10%, maybe the Cowboys.
Right.
But if the Eagles are fortunate enough to get there, I mean, the teams that scare me are obviously the Chiefs, the Ravens, because of their defense is so good.
Right.
And I would say the third team, and they might not even make the playoffs. They probably won't actually, would be the Bills.
I think it's too early to say the Bills wouldn't make the playoffs. And I know
they have to rattle off some big wins. I mean, I think they have to play Kansas City. They have to play.
I'm going to tell you here.
San Francisco.
Here is the Bills' remaining schedule. They play at the Chiefs, huge game. They have a bye week, so they're going into a bye. Chiefs, home against the Cowboys, at the Chargers, home against the Patriots, and then at the Dolphins. So you've got Chiefs, Cowboys, and Dolphins. Chargers can put up points. The only rollover victory really should be the Patriots, but you never know with Bill Belichick what he's going to pull out of his ass for that.
You never know.
I still am not. I am not sold on the Bills not making the playoffs. I'm not sold on that. I'll be sold on that. What are they, 6-5 now? Right?
6-6.
Or are they really? Are they 6-6? Buffalo Bills. Yeah, let's take a. Yeah, they are 6-6. Okay, so they're going to have to win 10 games to have a shot.
Right. So they have to go 4-2 or 4-1. They have to go 4-1.
Yeah. So Chiefs could be a loss. Cowboys could be a loss, but that's at home. So Chiefs and Dolphins could be losses because they're away. Yeah, they really need to. They need to go. They need to go 4-1, my friend.
Yeah, they need to go 4-1
to get the 10 wins,
But I'll tell you this though, they get in and they get the 6th seed, they could certainly be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The team is good enough. It's almost like there's a missing. It's like a circuit breaker box. One of the breakers has not flicked on yet for them. And if it does, then and their defense kind of rallies,
right,
then they've got a shot. But we just don't know that. There's been some turmoil.
But as far as is unstoppable.
Oh, he really is. He really is. I mean, if you think about it, him and his offense put up 34 points. If the defense would have held the Eagles on one or two other possessions, they win the game hands down.
Yeah, and they missed 2 field goals. Now one the Eagles blocked, but then the other one they missed.
Yeah,
I mean, they he did have a crucial turnover on the plus side of the field for the Eagles.
Right.
So but bottom line is Steelers Bills first round matchup. That would be bad news for the Steelers.
Steelers. Oh, good Lord. Yes. All right. Hey, DeFlitch, save those comments for the Pittsburgh show.
But yeah, it's fun. It's a fun team. It's fun. It's great when you have look, I mean, it's really hard to win the Super Bowl. I think Jalen will win a Super Bowl, hopefully this year, but if not this year, maybe sometime in the next 5 years.
Jake Elliott for president, says Rob. He'd get a lot of votes right now. He'd probably pull a bunch from RFK. So.
You know what? I saw like an unbelievable stat on Jake Elliott today too. There's something like, I think it's maybe like a total, there's only been 45 field goals made ever that were 59 yards or longer. And every single one of them, no matter who it is, it's they're 4 for 11, and 59 and over and stuff like that. And like Jake Elliott, 59 and over is 3 for 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's
Well, it is only 3, but I have a feeling he's going to have chances to kick a few more of those.
probably.
So let's talk about next week's game, the 49ers. What do you think they got to do? What do you think? What's one thing they got to do to win this game?
I think to win this game, they got to play with the lead. You can't expect to come back 5 weeks in a row.
Right.
In double digits at halftime. You just can't expect that.
Right.
It's not going to happen against that defense. I don't think anyway. So you got to play with the lead. I would like to see them establish the run a little bit more. I don't know. I mean, to be honest, it's hard to say. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I haven't really seen the games that San Francisco lost. I know in the games that they lost, Purdy was picked off a couple times in those games.
Yes.
So I guess what you got to do, it's not like it's groundbreaking, but I guess you got to rush the quarterback and put a lot of pressure on Purdy and make him rush throws. Got to make him rush throws. You can't just let him sit back there and pick you apart.
You could almost, if it's going to sound ridiculous, but you can, if I am the Eagles, I'm ignoring Christian McCaffrey. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not scheming for him, and I'm not putting defenses on the field in a position when you know it's a situation where he's going to get the ball. What I mean is, you can't use the Bill Belichick rule to beat the Niners by taking out McCaffrey. That's what Belichick always does. He finds the number one weapon. He says, we're going to neutralize the number one weapon and make everybody else beat us. And he's really good at that. I actually think Christian McCaffrey is good enough that you can't game plan to neutralize him. So you have to put pressure on Purdy, and you've got to get to him. You've got to, and it's like you got to blitz 70% of the time. You got to wear. They talk so much about how offensive lines will wear down a defense over time. Mm-hmm. But I think we forgot about the fact that the guys on the offensive side of the ball, they're getting tired too. And if your defense can ratchet up the pressure enough and just blast these guys off the ball, don't let them get that surge. Don't let them get that push. And now all of a sudden, you're freeing up guys in lanes and they can't pick them up. Totally disagree. Totally disagree with technique. Stop CMC, make Purdy win the game. See, that's where I'm just telling you, I don't think you can stop CMC. That's the thing. It's like,
well, here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Stop him.
Well, the Eagles do have the best run defense, at least in the NFC. And so, you got big Jordan Davis, you got Jalen Carter in there. Now, Fletcher Cox did get nicked up this week. I don't know if he's going to be in or not. Milton Williams was out. He had a concussion, so hopefully he'll be back next week. Brandon Graham plays the run well, so does Sweat. So, I guess the bottom line is that the run D is good. So I think you just got to sort of live with it and let that D line try to handle them. Now, I'm sure McCaffrey's going to get free a time or two. But I would rather live with that and try to make sure that like Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk don't beat you, and Kittle.
And that's what I'm talking about. If you're putting pressure on Purdy, he's got to rush those throws. He's not going to be as accurate. So that's the key to me. That's the key. And if you're neutralizing Purdy, if you're putting pressure on him, McCaffrey's a big part of the passing game too. So he may get less touches. So by putting pressure on Purdy, I think the ability to limit the amount of touches that McCaffrey has other than straight run plays is there. And I think that's the key. On offense, I think they have to run the ball. They have to go right at the heart of that San Francisco defensive line, and they've got to wear those guys out because they've got to keep them away from Hurts. And once they wear those guys out and they start to come up and play a little tighter, then you're going to be able to go over the top. But you can't do that too early. This is going to be, to me, this again. I said the Kansas City game had the potential of being a low scoring game. I said they were going to win 21-17. They did. They did it using pretty much the formula that I said. Now, look, I'm not a genius. I'm not a football guy. I'm just saying that I think you have to take the same approach with the 49ers. You have to target their quarterback. You have to keep the ball out of their hands because really CMC is kind of like their quarterback as well. The less time they're on the field, the less touches that McCaffrey's going to get, the less opportunities that Purdy's going to get. You need to run the ball and wear that defense out. And the nice thing is it's a home game. And the Eagles are pretty well. They do pretty well at home.
Yeah, I mean, I think you gotta, look. I mean, the Eagles give up a lot of yards, but they seem to score enough to win the games.
Yeah, bend don't
right?
break. Bend don't break.
So yeah, I mean, I think it'll come to if the Eagles can win the turnover battle, then I think they'll win the game.
And that's what pressure on the quarterback does as well.
Right. So, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, I don't really feel that. I don't
I'm
really.
Just right. I'm just right.
Yeah.
Just say you're right, Chris.
You're right. You're right, Chris.
Thank you. That's all I wanted.
I don't really feel that good about this game. Just like, to be honest, I thought like in this Bills game, I felt like the Eagles were so drained from beating the Chiefs that I felt like they weren't really even ready for this game, to be honest with you. I mean, I feel like they didn't get going till like the second half. It was kind of like, hey guys, wake up. We got a game to play here. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they might just be totally drained from winning these double-digit halftime scores for the last 4 weeks.
It is a slug. It is a slug fest with them. Teams bring their A game to play the Eagles.
Yeah, and I mean, right. And if you think about it, I mean, the game means much more to San Francisco than it does to the Eagles. If the Eagles lose, they still have a 1-game lead over San Francisco.
Right.
And of course, San Francisco, they need to win so that they can be back in the mix for the number 1 seed. They need the win because they want Philadelphia, to come play in San Francisco.
Right.
The Eagles are kind of more just like, it doesn't really matter. We'll win when we think we should.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Actually, it was a really funny thing. I don't know if I'm sure you didn't catch it because you're not feeling like you're probably not watching like every Eagles like thing on Twitter when they did the the coin toss in overtime. So Brandon Graham was, in for the coin toss, and Brandon Graham's like one of the biggest trash talkers, like in the whole league. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, whatever the guy, the Bills win the toss, and the guy goes, we'll take the ball. And Brandon Graham goes, it don't matter.
I love that. I love that intimidation. Okay, before we get out of here, because this is a quick porch tonight, let's make some predictions. I'll let you go first, Schwaber. Predict the game. What's the score, the outcome, and the score?
I feel those jackasses are going to beat the Eagles 28-23.
So you're saying Eagles lose 28-23?
I mean, look, they can't go 16-1, can they?
What teams have done it. I am giving the Eagles a win. I'm giving them a win at the same score. They beat the Chiefs 21-17. It's a slugfest. McCaffrey scores a touchdown, maybe 2. They get pressure on Purdy, and Hurts runs for a touchdown and throws 2 to AJ Brown, and that is the difference.
Oh, it's an AJ Brown game.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't around for the last game. Well, Devonta Smith was the leading receiver.
Yeah. Well, he did score a touchdown in the last game.
He did. That's true. So, yeah 21-17 Eagles, and we will see you guys back here next week talking about another Eagles victory, getting ready for the playoffs. 24-20.
40 whiners.
40 whiners. That's what Steve says. And
Wow, wow, wow.
there we go. That's.
They are our quarterback.
Can you hear the music this time?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching Porch Philadelphia all over the world on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and X. And remember, we are going to drop this podcast right after the show. We're dropping the podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. And you can always find us at theporcheslive.com, theporcheslive.com.
Theporcheslive.com. Click on the Philadelphia tab, the only tab that matters, and ring the bell.
Leave us a review, subscribe. We'll catch you next week.
Subscribe.